Now, Nick, I don't know if we are trendsetters per se.
We are not.
But there are a lot of games that have set trends, and we appreciate those games.
That's right.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Murph, and yes, we're talking about games that really ushered in, a kind of an era or a style of games that we saw many more of come after this game, and it's sort of the game that you cite as the beginning of da-da-da.
Da-da-da. And yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean this is going to be the very, very first game that ever did this mechanic, or it could be something way later, but it's the thing that really, put the thing on the map, or maybe re-put it back on the map. Yep. Again, you can argue for a lot of these different things. And down in the comments, let us know, you think this was the first big worker placement game, whatever.
Let's get a big discourse
We think
going.
it's a good discourse to have. Just be nice about it. No need to be rude. Just put it out there.
Well, it's all kind of based on your experience.
Exactly,
in the hobby, right? So.
But yeah, these are going to be big trend-setting games. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Now, we can't talk about things kicking off trends or really bringing something forward without talking about Patchwork and polyomino tile placement games. Patchwork really was kind of like I don't want to say pet project, but Uwe was developing a Feast for Odin, and at the center of that is a polyomino tile puzzle that you're trying to fill out this board, and then Uwe kind of distilled that and made a game that is all about that part where you are making a patchwork quilt. So I think Patchwork hit really well because it's got the puzzliness. There's kind of like a button economy that are your points, but also the things you're going to be spending to get patches for your quilt. You also have to spend time, which is a currency in the game, because you only have so much before your game will end. As you're trying to fill in this board as efficiently as possible with very strange shapes. I think that Patchwork really kind of got people into the polyominoes and stuff. We obviously all played Tetris and things back in the day, but taking it now with even weirder shapes and trying to find a way to mix them and match them together so that they make something cohesive, and then putting the theming of putting a patchwork quilt is what you're doing, I think really just made that game very satisfying to play. And it's no wonder that a million more polyomino games have come, including from Uwe, again, which this was a part of a larger game. It's just, you can't talk about polyomino games without talking about Patchwork, which still remains one of the best to ever do it with that mechanism.
Number 9 is going to be the Crew Quest for Planet 9. Now, I know trick-taking games have been around forever. There's been lots and lots of massive trick-taking games. The reason why we chose the Crew specifically for this list is because it kind of massively revamped trick-taking games, again, within the board game hobby, which is what we're talking about. Again, people are playing spades and hearts forever. That's never stopped. But within the board game hobby, especially on somewhere like BGG, the Crew was massive and really, really revamped it. But on top of that, it also made co-op trick-taking games very, very popular and desirable. And there's a ton of those now. And again, not that the Crew is the first thing to ever do that, but again, it was really what ushered in that, which is what we're kind of talking about. But the reason why we talk about the Crew, which is a wonderful co-op trick-taking game, as the thing that kind of brought trick-taking back, is it was the first in a long time big smash trick-taking game, again, in a while in the hobby. And we know this because we were talking to a publisher at one point. They had released a trick-taking game. This was a couple years before the Crew had come out. And it did very badly, to be completely honest. And we were talking to them about that, and they were just basically saying, yeah, you can't sell a trick-taking game anymore. That's literally what they told us. You can't sell a trick-taking game anymore. It's just not a genre. It's not a mechanic that people are interested in really anymore. And it was kind of a dead mechanic. Again, there were little things here and there, a couple things here and there, but no really big games. And then the Crew came in and just took over. And then now I feel trick-taking is one of the most popular mechanics out there. We love trick-taking games, not just because of the Crew, but the Crew, again, really brought it back in. But nonetheless, we love the Crew. It's a big one. And again, it was also a big one for co-op trick-taking games, which is really, really nice because trick-taking has an interesting thing where there's a lot of hidden kind of language in trick-taking and a lot of you're saying stuff without actually saying anything. It's hard to learn that, but it's easier to do that in a co-op setting. But the Crew is a game where you're technically going through a campaign. You have all these different missions. They're all just like slight different rule changes. But for the most part, you're going to have these various tasks. So this task might be like, I need to win the 7 of pink and the 2 of blue. That's my task. And then Mike will have a task, and then Jimmy will have a task, and then Hannah will have a task. So all these different people will have various tasks, and we win that round if everyone completes their task. So at the end of the game, if I end up in my pile of tricks that I've won with the pink 7 and the blue 2, boom, I completed my task. If anyone fails their task, we lose that round. We have to play it again. And each round you're getting different tasks. There's a big old stack of them, and you're giving them randomly. So it's going to be different every single time. And honestly, that alone would have made the game so much fun and so incredible and infinitely replayable, as all trick-taking games are. But then adding that little bit of a campaign where the rules do change as you go through was very, very fun. So the Crew, Quest for Planet 9, again, not the first trick-taking game, not the biggest trick-taking game ever, but one of them, and one of the ones that really, really brought it back to the forefront and then really, really kind of jettisoned it into a co-op arena.
Next, we're going to talk about Pandemic Legacy. Pandemic Legacy absolutely took over the hobby. This was preceded by Risk Legacy, also by Rob Daviau. But you know, that hit some of the, what I call like hobby board gamers. But then Pandemic Legacy was a game, you know, Pandemic is already well established within our hobby, well loved, many people's gateway into this hobby, including my own. And then taking that and putting a familiar thing such as Pandemic and turning it into this narrative where the game is going to change forever. The game state is going, you know, there's twists and turns to the story. There's stickers and things going on. Cards are being ripped up. This was a whole new kind of deal. And of course, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 shot up to the #1 spot on Board Game Geek and ushered in many other Legacy games. You know, some resettable, some, you know, like a Pandemic where things are going to be physically changed forever and it's kind of a one and done big experience played over multiple games. And we still see Legacy games to this day coming out. We had a Ticket to Ride Legacy coming out recently. Mountain Ghost Legacy just came out from Allplay. So Pandemic Legacy really shifted, I feel like, kind of like what was possible with a board game outside of just making something, you know, a cooperative game or something like that. This like really shook the entire hobby, and I think kind of expanded people's minds as to like what board games can be, what kind of experiences they can create, and making something that a whole group can enjoy over many game nights and have this kind of story that they'll always remember.
Next up is going to be Seven Wonders. Seven Wonders really, really, I feel like brought drafting forward and really trendsetted. I mean, what is now one of the most popular mechanics in board games, and drafting is kind of one of those ones like deck building or something like that, where it can be the entire game as it is in Seven Wonders, but it also can be a small part of the game or something you do at the beginning of the game where you draft things out. And Seven Wonders, again, kind of really put it on the map. I would say that and like Sushi Go, you could argue, also really, really put it on the map as like a pure drafting game. And this is, again, Seven Wonders. If you ever played Seven Wonders or Seven Wonders Duel or any of those kind of games, they all have the same kind of theme where you are gathering cards. In this case, you are just drafting them around the table. So you'll have a hand of cards. You will keep one of them and then pass them all to the player to your left. And then again, you'll be getting some cards too. You take them, you go, and you kind of keep going around and around and around. You're basically trying to build out the best thing you possibly can. And there is like military ones, there's like science ones. And Seven Wonders is really interesting in that way where like, it's kind of like a Fantasy Realms type game where the game itself is like pretty simple and also really, really quick, but then the scoring is like half of the game. It's like trying to figure out what all scores what is like a whole big part of the game, and it's very, very fun. I tend to prefer something like a Seven Wonders Duel over a Seven Wonders because I enjoy the kind of drafting through like a card pyramid. I think it's slightly more interesting and tactical, but nonetheless, Seven Wonders is great. Again, it really ushered in a lot of these kind of like, because think of like things like Draftosaurus and stuff. A lot of these kinds of big, pure drafting games where you're trying to set, collect, and do all these different things. Seven Wonders, I still feel like to this day is still kind of like the mecca of that kind of game. And it was a huge trendsetter, and for good reason. It's wonderful.
Now, for these kind of trend-setting games, you are going to have games that are a lot of people's gateway into the hobby, and I think that is a mark of a game doing something truly great with its mechanisms. And how do you talk about tile laying games and not talk about Carcassonne? Carcassonne is an early adopter of the tile laying, where that really is the central focus of the game. In this game, you are drawing a tile off of one of the face-down stacks around the table. And on this, you're going to have some grass, maybe a piece of a city, some road, maybe, an abbey. And you're going to have to place that into this shared landscape in such a way that things make sense. So grass has to touch grass, road has to continue road, city to city, things like that. And I think that's really the kind of beauty of Carcassonne and why this has been such a huge intro for so many people into gaming, and one that stays really fun to play. I play Carcassonne a bunch. I play much heavier games. Carcassonne still rips. It's so good because of that satisfying nature, the intuition that comes from having to make the landscape make sense. And then there's deeper levels of play because you can claim a feature on the tile you played. If there's a road and it's, connects to a piece of road that hasn't been claimed by any other piece, you can then claim that road and score points when that road comes to an end. Same for cities. For the abbeys, you want to surround them, and you can get in and try to have a piece of a city that you've claimed and then connect it after the fact to another piece of a city that someone else has claimed, and now you have to split the points and stuff. So you can get really tactical, really, really nasty with your moves, or you can keep it really kind of casual and fun. But having an entire game centered around tile laying, something that we are all building together. So the game starts with a single tile, and then becomes this kind of vast display that will be different every single time you play. There's just a bunch of things that are really fun, really cool. And for someone coming into the hobby, it's kind of mind-blowing because at the beginning of the game, there's just a tile on the table and you're like, okay, let's begin. And if you've come from, Monopoly World and stuff, that's very, very different. And I think a really cool introduction to like, okay, now we're doing this over here. We're talking hobby board games now.
Number 5 is going to be Caylus. Caylus is a classic worker placement game. It is really the game that jettisoned worker placement into the general board game hobby. Again, you could maybe argue something like Agricola, particularly with like farming games, but a lot of farming games come from one person. That's Uwe Rosenberg, who made Agricola. So we're talking about Caylus. Caylus is a class, maybe the first worker placement game. I can never quite remember if it was exactly the first one, but it was very, very early on. And it kind of has that quintessential worker placement-ness where you're getting in each other's way, and there's a lot of bit of prioritization. It's one of the reasons why worker placement is still probably my favorite mechanic, is because I really enjoy having to battle in my own mind, like when to prioritize go into certain spots. But you are going to be placing your workers out, and you can go to spots that give you like money and resources, and then you can use those resources to build buildings and upgrade buildings. But building buildings is a big, big part of the game, because what buildings the players purchase and build are going to determine the actions that you can do in the game, that everyone can do in the game. And so what buildings you buy really, really determine like that game, and really can change up the game a lot. But there's also this provost meeple, the provost little marker, basically, that's moving down, and basically wherever that provost marker is, basically that's the newest building that can be activated. So that really also very much determines what you can do in the game, and you can like pay to influence the province marker to basically move them farther along and kind of move them to where you want them to. And so it's this really, really highly interactive game that is a classic at this point. It's really, really, again, it's a trendsetter, right? This is why we're talking about it. It's just one of those games that really embodies worker placement. A lot of the really great interaction that you get in worker placement games is shown full in Caylus, and it's a classic for a reason.
Next up is going to be Dominion. Dominion is the game that everyone cites if you're talking about a deck building game. A game where you are going to start with a hand of cards that are all fairly simple and boring, and you are going to be adding cool cards to give you more money to spend, give you more actions to use, more buying opportunities and things like that. And Dominion really has gone next level in just introducing not only the kind of really the concept of deck building that kind of brought it to the fore, but also the idea that from game to game you can have different types of cards in the market so that you can have a ton of variety just in the types of cards and the kind of style of game that would create. And then of course, many, many expansions to widen that ability for variety, you know, to the stratosphere. But there's something just beautifully satisfying about a deck builder, and especially a Dominion, which is a pure deck builder, I'd say. It's like you want to get the cool cards that do stuff. You then want to start buying the cards that are actually worth your points, those duchies and things. But those don't have any abilities. They just sit there and kind of gunk up the works. And so finding that balance point of like, I actually need to get these things or else I'm not really doing anything toward winning the game, but I need the cards, you know, that are going to kind of power my game. And that kind of interplay and that balance, I think, is really fun. And there's a beautiful kind of ramp up because, again, you start with like boring normal cards, the ability to buy some cards and stuff, and then you kind of start to build the better and better cards. You start chaining stuff together, and that's just beautiful and satisfying. And there's been a million deck building games since, but people still think of Dominion as almost kind of the purest form of like a deck builder.
Number 3 is going to be Pandemic, and this is kind of the big trendsetter for cooperative games. Again, it wasn't the first cooperative game, but I feel like it was the first real big mega cooperative game, which is still a mega cooperative game. Pandemic, just the base game of Pandemic, is still enormous. It's still massive, massive, massive. And you know how big of a deal Pandemic is and was because of all the different things that have sprouted out of Pandemic. And what I mean by that is like the other pandemics. There are now tons of different pandemics. There's Pandemic Iberia and like not Call of Cthulhu. What's it called? Cthulhu Rising? It's not Cthulhu Rising. I can't remember that one. But nonetheless, the Cthulhu one, there's like the Rising Tides one, there's like Fall of Rome. But then they started working in all these other things. Like there's the Wrath of the Lich King, the WoW one, there is the new Lord of the Rings one, the Fate of the Fellowship, which is actually my personal favorite of all the Pandemic games. There's all the Pandemic Legacies. This has been a massive, massive, massive thing in board games. And it really, again, like it wasn't the first cooperative game, but it was one of the first big mega ones. And like every single cooperative game that came after it, you know, it's kind of like Tolkien, right? Tolkien's the father of like modern fantasy, and everything is kind of tied back to Tolkien in a weird way. That's kind of how I view Pandemic, at least. It's just really, really great. I love Pandemic. It's a game where you are trying to save the world. The world is being overrun by these 4 diseases that are spreading throughout the world, and you are trying to stop them, you're trying to cure them, and then hopefully eradicate them. It's just good. It's a theme that we can all hopefully get behind. And it's just really, really fun. It was our gateway into the hobby. It was a lot of people's gateways into the hobby. Pandemic's a classic. It's massive. It'll always be massive. And they keep making more and more and more of it. And they're still all really, really good.
Next up, we're going to talk about Catan for ushering in our conception, you know, like the Euro game, essentially. Catan is, you know, from quite a while ago, you know, did its thing in the 90s, really started picking up steam around the millennium, and is still wildly popular and played, and still for many like non-gamers, a game that probably a lot of people have played. If they don't know about the wider world of board gaming, a lot of people have still played Catan. It's really kind of amazing the way it's gotten so much reach. In this game, you are kind of rolling dice and activating spaces to produce resources. You're going to be then building roads and cities and settlements and things, playing cards to kind of mess with each other. There's this robber that's moving around and causing people to lose their resources. You can negotiate and deal in trades with other players. So it's got a lot of really cool things going on. But I think there's kind of you know, the DNA at the foundational level, a lot of kind of things that would usher in the popularity more widely of Euro style games and mechanisms. It all kind of traces back to Catan. So we really can't say we'd have any of this without Catan.
Number 1's going to be Magic the Gathering. it's kind of hard for it to not be Magic the Gathering, right? Like it's one of those things like the board game geek sphere is very interesting because we're more board games, and even though a lot of the games we talk about are ultimately card games, CCGs, collectible card games, are not really huge on BGG. But Magic is the number one, of course. Magic the Gathering, to this day, is so much bigger than like all of board games. Just that one card game is still so much bigger than like really all of board games. It's kind of crazy just how massive Magic is, in the sense that like not every single one, but most board game shops, most like brick and mortar board game stores are fueled by Magic, and they were able to stay in business because of Magic. Now with things like Pokemon and a couple of the other games that have gotten bigger in the last couple of years, that has changed a little bit, but like in the end, not really. And it really ushered in all these various CCGs, and it's interesting because it ushered in all these other ones, but no one has ever come close to the heights of Magic the Gathering. There's a whole bunch of other ones like Pokemon, probably like the closest. You have like Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, you have like Flesh and Blood. There's a whole bunch of these kind of collectible card games. And every year there's always a new one that's going to kind of like try and take away a chunk of that Magic the Gathering, and it just doesn't. Lorcana, I feel like, was the last big one where people are like, ooh, Lorcana's really, really big. Like, maybe it'll actually take a chunk out of the Magic stuff, and it didn't. Magic is just unstoppable. But again, it's a 1v1 game. There's tons of huge tournaments. You can play it all sorts of different ways, like Magic the Gathering Arena, which is like online. You can do like drafting. You can do big deck constructions, tournaments. You can kind of have like booster pack drafting, where you kind of just get a bunch of booster packs, you open them, that's the deck you have, and you have to play with it. So many different ways to play. Every single time you go to a game store, the vast majority of people there are sitting there playing Magic. It's Magic the Gathering. It had to be number one.
So some games that really set the trend moving forward. Many games that would borrow from the mechanisms we saw in our list would come after, and they're, again, often the game that you cite when you talk about this thing. There can be no CCG without mentioning Magic.
Yeah, exactly,
you know, for example. Hence it being number one. Yeah. Spoilers if you jump to the end and miss the whole video.
It'd be weird to jump to this point.
It'd be strange, but maybe someone did.
Some people did.
Anyway, get your picks for each of these categories. What do you think was, for you, the first, or for you, the most impactful? And also any other games and categories you're like, man, the first time I ever saw this thing happen, it was with this game. Yeah. Let's just get that so we can maybe do a part two someday. That'd be really fun. And until next time, everybody, I am Mike.
I'm Nick.
That is Nick indeed, and we are going to see y'all in the next Top 10.
Bye, everybody.